Sheikh Yusuf Al-Qaradawi, who helped inspire a revolution in Egypt, dies. Trump advisor Stephen Miller came up with strategy to bus migrants to blue states. Putin grants citizenship to Edward Snowden, who disclosed U.S. surveillance. Global Islamic Refugee Fund launched with initial capital of $100 million. Death toll from Lebanon migrant boat accident rises to 94. Muslims criticize documentary Jihad, Rehab. From our Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana, Siddiqui. Our top story tonight, Sheikh Yusuf Al-Qaradawi, one of the world's most influential religious scholars, has died at age 96. Al-Qaradawi was the chairman of the International Union of Muslim Scholars. He was also a spiritual leader for the Muslim Brotherhood movement, known in Arabic as Ikhwan al-Muslimin. His approach to Islamic law, combining scholarship and political activism, as well as his ability to communicate, earned him millions of followers. Born in 1926, Al-Qaradawi grew up in Egypt when it was still under British colonial rule. In his youth, he combined religious education with anti-colonial activism, which led to repeated arrests by Egyptian authorities. In particular, his association with the Muslim Brotherhood led to his arrest by Arab nationalist President Jamal Abdel Nasser in the 1950s. Al-Qaradawi left Egypt for Qatar in the early 1960s when he was appointed Dean of the Faculty of Sharia at Qatar University. Crackdowns on the Muslim Brotherhood, even in the United States, led to him being banned entry into the country in 1999. Al-Qaradawi was tried and sentenced to death in absentia in Egypt for his opposition to the Egyptian military dismissing the elected Egyptian government. He authored more than 200 books on different aspects of Islam. We have a special segment coming up later tonight in our show, so keep watching Muslim News. Campaign finance data compiled by Open Secrets shows the Koch brothers network has spent more than $1 million supporting Republican congressional candidates who attempted to overturn the 2020 presidential election. The Watchdog Group reports Koch funding added to the tens of millions that corporate political action committees have funneled to election deniers since the January 6th attack. The Guardian reported Friday that Koch Industries, an oil and gas giant controlled by billionaire Charles Koch, has donated $607,000 to the campaigns or leadership PACs of 52 election deniers. It makes Koch's PAC the top corporate funder of members who oppose the election results. Americans for Prosperity Action, to which Koch has donated $6 million, has spent almost $20 million on ads and other communications, a newspaper reported. Much of that funding supported election deniers running for the Senate and House and Senate candidates who tried to help reverse the 2020 election results or raise doubts about its outcome. Republican governors Greg Abbott of Texas and Florida's Ron DeSantis are facing criticism for sending migrants to blue states and liberal cities. But it's not the first time a Republican has suggested such a strategy. Stephen Miller, a senior advisor to former President Donald Trump, reportedly floated a similar idea at the federal level. The idea fizzled out due to legal concerns. Experts say actions by Abbott and DeSantis reflect how Miller and the Trump White House still have their fingerprints all over the Republican Party's approach to immigration. Robert Law, former chief of policy at U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services during the Trump administration, said the playbook was established under the ex-president's administration. A 12-year-old girl in Weatherford, Texas, shot herself and her father last week in a murder pact with another girl, the Parker County Sheriff's Office said on Facebook. Officers found the girl's body Tuesday. She was lying in the street with an apparent gunshot wound to the head and a gun underneath her body. Authorities said officers found the 38-year-old father inside the house with a gunshot wound to the abdomen. Investigators believe the girl shot her father, fled, and then shot herself, the sheriff's office said. Authorities said the shootings were part of a murder plot the girl made weeks ago with another girl. They planned to murder their families and pets and then run away together to Georgia, the sheriff's office said. Meg Smacker's Jihad, Rehab documentary earned a coveted spot in the 2022 lineup of the prestigious Sundance Festival. It took 16 months of filming inside a Saudi rehabilitation center for accused terrorists. The film focuses on 4 former Guantanamo detainees sent to the rehab center. And the detainees opened up about their lives, spoke about their youthful attraction to Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, of the torture they endured, and their regrets. The film received mixed reviews. Arab and Muslim filmmakers and their supporters have denounced it and accused Smacker of Islamophobia and American propaganda. Some suggested as a white woman she wasn't qualified to tell the story of Arab men. The documentary was soon disavowed by industry leaders. Abigail Disney, a grandniece of Walt Disney and an executive producer of the documentary, called it brilliant but later disavowed it. Prominent film festivals have rescinded invitations. Critics have also took to social media and pressured investors, advisors, and Smacker's friends to withdraw names from the credits. Putin grants citizenship to Edward Snowden. Details after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages.
A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today.
I am what hunger looks like in America.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
We are Justice for All. Headquartered in the heart of downtown Chicago, Justice for All is a global humanitarian initiative dedicated to raising awareness for human rights concerns impacting vulnerable minority groups. Our diverse team of staff and volunteers, led by Imam Malik Mujahid, work tirelessly to help Justice for All achieve their goals. We promote policies that protect religious freedom, address the root causes of mass displacement, and recognize the plight of refugees and forced migrants. Together, we can continue to stand up for justice. Justice for all.
Greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dawood Warnsby. About 30 years ago, I walked into a mosque for the first time here in Canada, and I felt pretty strange. The reason I felt so weird? Well, in those days, it wasn't easy to walk into a mosque and find someone else who was a shaggy-haired singer-songwriter who wrote poetry and worked professionally as a puppeteer. I had no idea how I was going to fit in culturally or creatively with this new community. I quickly realized that there was a long and rich history of arts in the Muslim community that went hand in hand with education and learning. A little while later, I came upon a magazine from an organization called Sound Vision. And they had a little blurb at the back of the magazine that said, "If you're creative, we'd love to work with you." I took some songs that I'd been writing, put them on a little cassette and called them A Whisper of Peace, sent them through to Sound Vision. I had no idea that over 25 years later, I would still be working with Sound Vision. Things have really changed over the last quarter century. Now we see tons of creative, commercial Muslim artists making music and videos and film and television and comedy and cartoons. It's wonderful. But sadly, we're also still seeing a lack of educational materials for young children. Sound Vision continues to be one of the only non-profit media producers creating quality educational content for Muslim children and families. Children need mentors and teachers who are able and willing to help inspire them with wisdom, self-esteem, and care for their world. The Adam's World series has been rebooted as an app with new episodes and new songs. We have the popular Adam's World Club and the Colors of Islam classes for children and youth to attend online. And now there's a new program in the works called Falafel Dude, helping school children learn to be better citizens, better neighbors, and better Muslims. Join me in supporting Sound Vision's ongoing work however you can, so that we can continue to inspire Muslim children and families for generations to come. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Imam Malik Mujahid. Let's stand with those who stand with us. I'm talking about Nadine Maenza. For 2 years in a row, Nadine Maenza as chair led Yusuf to ask the US government to sanction India and declare it is a country of particular concern. It was Yusuf, by the way, whose recommendation was used to ban Modi for 10 years from entering the United States of America. Join hand in recognizing Yusuf and honoring Nadine Menza on October 2nd. Justice for All is a Muslim-led human rights organization with a 30 years track record. You have heard of name Burma Task Force? That's Justice for All. We started 30 years ago when Bosnian genocide was going on, and working together we stopped that. Join hand today and be there on October 2nd to stop genocide and protect Muslim minorities around the world. Scan this code on the screen to register or visit justiceforall.org/VA. Assalamu alaikum. To stop this genocide, we need your help.
Welcome back. Russian President Vladimir Putin today granted citizenship to Edward Snowden. Snowden is the whistleblower who revealed the extent of U.S. surveillance in America and around the world through his work at the National Security Agency. As a former computer intelligence consultant, he leaked highly classified information from the NSA in 2013 when he was an employee and subcontractor. Snowden fled the United States to avoid prosecution. He has been living in Russia, which granted him asylum in 2013. The Global Islamic Refugee Fund was launched at the 77th UN General Assembly in New York. The $100 million fund is supported by the UN High Commissioner for Refugees and the Islamic Solidarity Fund for Development of the Islamic Development Bank. Dr. Abdullah Al-Rabia is Supervisor General of the King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Center in Saudi Arabia. He said the partnership will help millions of people globally who have been forcibly displaced from their homes. Al-Rabia also said the region represented by the Organization of Islamic Cooperation contains the largest number of refugees in the world. At least 18 people were killed in a mosque attack in Zamfara state in Nigeria, media reports said Saturday. Armed perpetrators opened fire on worshippers gathered for Friday prayers in the Ruwan-Jima region, national media reports. Many injuries were also reported. Muhammad Shehu, Zamfara police spokesman, did not confirm the number of deaths. For the last 5 years, Zamfara has been a hotspot for clashes between Fulanis and tribes who earn their livelihoods through farming. The state government reported armed gang members caught due to increasing security problems would be tried with execution. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari banned mining activities in the state due to security concerns. Zamfara State Governor Bello Matawale called on residents to arm themselves to defend against armed gangs. The death toll from protests in Iran over a young woman who died in police custody has risen to 41, state media reports. Iranian state TV said 41 protesters and policemen have been killed since protests erupted last Saturday. Demonstrations broke out after the funeral of Mahsa Amini, a 22-year-old who died after being detained by the morality police in the capital Tehran on September 13th. Authorities claimed Amini wore a hijab improperly. They said her death was due to a heart attack. However, Amini's family members and others in Iran have rejected the claim, saying they believe she was the victim of police brutality. Iranian authorities have promised a thorough investigation into her death. On Sunday, 30 Palestinians held by Israel staged a hunger strike to protest their indefinite imprisonment. The prisoners demanded an end to their administrative detention in Ofer prison west of Ramallah, said Qadura Faris, head of the Palestine Prisoner Society. All the detainees are members of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. Faris expects more Palestinian detainees to join the hunger strike in the coming days. Administrative detention allows Israeli authorities to detain anyone for 6 months without charge or trial. Such detentions can be extended indefinitely. There are over 4,000 Palestinian detainees in Israeli jails, including at least 780 held without charge or trial, according to Palestinian sources. The death toll from a migrant boat that sank off the coast of Syria has risen to 94, Lebanese authorities said Sunday. Mohammed Khair, Secretary General of the official Higher Relief Commission, said 4 new bodies were recovered. He said 5 Lebanese and 8 Palestinians who were on the boat are being treated at Al-Basil Hospital in Syria's Tartus city. On Thursday, Syrian regime authorities said a boat that set off from Lebanon sank off the coast of Tartus. The boat was carrying nearly 170 Lebanese, Palestinian, and Syrian migrants. So far, 94 bodies have been found and around 20 migrants were rescued. Others remain missing. There has been a rise in Lebanese and Syrians migrating to European countries through illegal means. Their migration is due to unprecedented deterioration in economic and social conditions, as well as soaring poverty in both countries. A new report by the Muslim Council of Britain shines a light on the heritage, perspectives, and contributions of Black, African, and African Caribbean Muslims in the UK. Race, Faith, and Community in Contemporary Britain brings together more than 40 authors and stakeholder organizations over a 3-year period. It includes a series of diverse and reflective essays highlighting perspectives in education, employment, politics, criminal justice, the arts, and more. The document addresses how Muslim community institutions can forge stronger connections in 3 categories. These are embedding leadership team diversity, ensuring visibility in the media, and supporting year-round racial inclusivity initiatives. Coming up next after the break is our in-depth analysis segment, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3.
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Abdul Malik Mujahid. Muslims get bombarded with negative news, so good things which we do remain unknown. For example, do you know that Muslim Americans helped stop the genocide in Bosnia? Recently, Muslim Americans defeated Apple, Coca-Cola, Nike, and their lobbies to get a law passed through Congress about Uyghurs. Do you also know that it were Muslim Americans who work hard and smart to block Modi from entering the United States for 10 years? Yes, Alhamdulillah. All of that is your credit. Let's keep doing the good thing. Alhamdulillah, 3 achievers of our community are coming to Chicago to help strengthen Justice for All. Justice for All is a human rights organization run by Muslims based in Chicago. We will honor Arsalan Suleiman, a young person raised in our communities who filed a lawsuit on Burma because of the Rohingya genocide. We'll also honor Ambassador Rashad Hussain, raised in our communities, married in Chicago, and who is now the ambassador at large for international religious freedom. In addition, we will honor the latest commissioner of Yusuf, Imam Muhammad Majid, for his relentless support for Burma Task Force. Please join me. Let's come together on October 9th in Chicago. Scan this code to register or visit justiceforall.org/Chicago. Assalamu alaikum.
Greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dawood Warnsby. About 30 years ago, I walked into a mosque for the first time here in Canada, and I felt pretty strange. The reason I felt so weird? Well, in those days, It wasn't easy to walk into a mosque and find someone else who was a shaggy-haired singer-songwriter who wrote poetry and worked professionally as a puppeteer. I had no idea how I was going to fit in culturally or creatively with this new community. I quickly realized that there was a long and rich history of arts in the Muslim community that went hand in hand with education and learning. A little while later, I came upon a magazine from an organization called Sound Vision. And they had a little blurb at the back of the magazine that said, "If you're creative, we'd love to work with you." I took some songs that I'd been writing, put them on a little cassette and called them A Whisper of Peace, sent them through to Sound Vision. I had no idea that over 25 years later, I would still be working with Sound Vision. Things have really changed over the last quarter century. Now we see tons of creative, commercial Muslim artists making music and videos and film and television and comedy and cartoons. It's wonderful. But sadly, we're also still seeing a lack of educational materials for young children. Sound Vision continues to be one of the only non-profit media producers creating quality educational content for Muslim children and families. Children need mentors and teachers who are able and willing to help inspire them with wisdom, self-esteem, and care for their world. The Adam's World series has been rebooted as an app with new episodes and new songs. We have the popular Adam's World Club and the Colors of Islam classes for children and youth to attend online. And now there's a new program in the works called Falafel Dude, helping school children learn to be better citizens, better neighbors, and better Muslims. Join me in supporting Sound Vision's ongoing work however you can, so that we can continue to inspire Muslim children and families for generations to come. Assalamu alaikum.
To stop this genocide, we need your help.
Welcome back. To discuss the lifelong contributions of Sheikh Yusuf Al-Qaradawi, let's go to Edward Ahmed Mitchell. Over to you, Edward.
And now we move to news that just broke today. Many of you have heard of it, the passing of Dr. Yusuf Al-Qardawi in Qatar. To discuss his life, his passing, we would like to bring on our special guest, Dr. Zulfiqar Ali Shah. Many of you know is the Executive Director and Secretary General of the Fiqh Council of North America, and he's the Director of Religious Affairs of the Islamic Society of Milwaukee. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Shah. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam, my brother. How are you doing?
Hamza, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining us. Jazakallah khairan. So, as I mentioned, we want this to be educational for our viewers. Many of them may have already known about Dr. Al-Qaradawi and his life. Many may not know about his life and his work. So we just want to get some reflections from you and learn a little bit about his life story and why his life was significant to so many people around the world. So first, can you just give us a little recap of his life story, not a detailed biography, but just an overview of where he came from and generally what he did and where he ended up?
Sure. Now, when it comes to the Islamic scholarship, Sheikh Al-Qaradawi was the jurist of this century, the faqih of this ummah, the most renowned Muslim scholar of our time, and also a highly renowned intellectual and a Muslim philosopher. He was born in the Nile Delta of Egypt in 1926, and he got his basic education from Al-Azhar Sharif, the bachelor's as well as master's, as well as his PhD. And then he moved to Qatar in 1961 and stayed most of his life in Qatar and Algeria, but mostly in Qatar. He went back to Egypt when there was a sort of revolution and the Ikhwan's government came, but then he was expelled, or you can say he was not allowed to live in Egypt afterwards. And then he came back and he died in Doha. So Sheikh Al-Qaradawi is a known scholar, not only in Egypt, but all over the Islamic world. He established many Islamic organizations, many Islamic institutions. He was a prolific writer who wrote over 200 books. He was the founder of the IFTA Council in Europe, European Council for IFTA and Research, and he was also the founding president and founding member of Muslim Scholars International Union in the world. So Sheikh Al-Qaradawi was the most influential Muslim scholar, jurist, and intellectual in our century.
Dr. Shah, tell me more about the scholarship aspect of it. What would you say were his main areas of focus, in terms of areas that he elucidated in his scholarship, things that had some impact on the world as we see it? Any areas of focus that you want to highlight?
Actually, he was a jurist. A jurist means that he was a faqih. Now, among the fuqaha, he was known to reconcile the reason with revelation. As you can understand that some of the fuqaha, they take the Islamic fiqh literally, and some of them, they try to reconcile it with contemporary idiom, contemporary problems, and the issues which are being faced by the ummah, say, for example, in the West as well as in the Muslim world. So he was among the scholars who was a mujtahid of his time. He will not only accept, look at the meanings and the whys of those texts, and in the light of objectives of Islamic Sharia or objectives of Islamic religion, he would be happy to look at those texts and reinterpret them and try to relate them and make them relevant to the contemporary issues and the modern thought patterns.
Gotcha. So, Dr. Shah, let me ask you about this. So, in recent years during the Arab Spring, I think he was known for speaking up about that, sharing perspective on that. I think he was also known for speaking up against some of the violent extremist groups that started operating, in the years after the Arab Spring, after that collapse. Can you tell us about his thoughts on the past 10, 20 years of things that we've experienced in the Muslim Ummah and also around the world?
Actually, he was a Muslim activist from the beginning of his life. He was among the founding members, or at least the most influential intellectuals in what we call Ikhwan al-Muslimin, or the Islamic movement in Egypt and all around the world. He was imprisoned by King Farouk when he was a young man. He was 3 times imprisoned by Jamal Abdul Nasir, and then he was also imprisoned during the time of Hosni Mubarak. And until he left Egypt, he was under the surveillance of the government, because he always spoke and he always, stood for the truth. At the same time, he was the one who would like to see the Muslim world make a transition towards democratic systems, and especially based upon Islamic principles. He was a man who will always oppose the tyrant, who will always oppose or speak against the oppressors, and he would stand for the oppressed all over the world. That was the reason that the Egyptian government did not like him, or some of the anti-Islamic movements or ideological movements did not subscribe to his ideas, and actually they called him sometime terrorist, sometime extremist, and sometime they labeled him with different kinds of labels. But he was a man of his principles, who will always stand by the oppressed and who will always speak the truth. And that is the reason that when the Arabic Spring took place, and he spoke in Maidan al-Tahrir, or Tahrir Square, where he called upon the Egyptian Muslims as well as the Coptics, both Muslims and Christians, to stand up for democracy, for human rights, for human equality, and stand against the tyranny of the existing president, which was Hosni Mubarak at that time. Actually, he called him the Pharaoh of Egypt, which means that he was calling people to demand their rights and to work for democracy and to work for freedom of religion, freedom of expression, as well as the political freedom. So he was a known, I will call him a known mujahid, who will not care about the punishment, who will not care about the opposition, who will always say the truth wherever the truth was. And even if he had to pay with his life, he would do so.
Now, Dr. Shah, did you ever meet Dr. Al-Qardawi? And if so, can you tell us about that experience?
Sure. My encounter with Dr. Qaradawi happened in the International Islamic University. I was a student, and my teacher, Dr. Hussein Hamid Hassan, and Dr. Hassan Shafi, they were his close friends and his classmates. So they requested him to become the board of trustees, member of the board of trustees of the International Islamic University, which he accepted, and that he used to come to our university every year for the meeting of the board of trustees. So I met with him, I learned from him in Islamabad. And then when I was part of SANA, Sharia Scholars Association of North America, we invited him, and he came to America and participated in our conference. And I also met with him and saw him in Istanbul and a number of other areas. So I had tremendous respect for him, and I have learned a great deal from him and many of his colleagues.
Dr. Shah, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your perspective and your experiences. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. And we look forward to having you back on to discuss more important topics in the future, God willing. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, my brother. Jazakallah khair for having me.
Wayak, wayak. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And we'll toss it back to you now, Samana.
Thank you. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.